Today we are going to focus on point number 4 of AAHOA's 12 Points of Fair Franchising. If you have missed the first 3, I'd ask you to please jump on and watch the videos, watch the webinars for points 1, 2, and 3. That way you're up to speed and you can join us as we are doing a deep dive into what AAHOA's 12 Points of Fair Franchising really mean for you as hoteliers, you as franchisees. Again, our mission is just to go from victory to victory in this battle for fairness in the franchise industry. As previously mentioned, we would invite you to go to the AAHOA website, AAHOA.com, find the 12 Points of Fair Franchising Educational Primer, as well as the 12 Points Questionnaire. These are 2 tools that you can use to better educate yourself on what is in each of the 12 points of fair franchising. So I would encourage you, if you have these materials in front of you or want to pull them up on your screen, you can follow along with us. So for point number 4, we are focusing on quality assurance inspections and guest surveys. As hoteliers, you all know that your QA scores, your QA inspections are very important to ensure that you are in compliance with this brand standards, with the standards that have been set by your franchisor to operate your hotel. So passing scores can make the difference between continuing to operate your hotel in the way you've been doing, or if you do not pass, of course, you could then be determined to be in default. And if it's not corrected, this could even lead to an early termination. We do not want you to be facing any of that. So let's look at this point number 4. And as you see, when you are looking at the point itself, we are advocating that franchisors should have the same standards for each of their facilities operating under a specific brand name in the franchise system. So in other words, whatever hotel you're operating, you should not have different standards than every other hotel with that same brand name. That's only fair. It's not fair for one hotel to get a break on the quality assurance or on the standards and every other hotel have to maintain those standards. That just means there's inconsistency across the brand, and guests will pick that up quickly as they're traveling. So we are promoting that it should be the same across the board. Also, franchisors should conduct their QA inspections in a fair, reasonable, and unbiased manner, and use their best efforts to prepare QA reports that are accurate and complete. Of course, otherwise it's not fair. So let's talk about these QA reports. If a franchisee fails a QA inspection and is given a punch list of items to repair, correct, or change, of course, as a franchisee, you should strive to do this. You should strive to do it in a manner that is complete and on a timely basis. But when your franchisor then returns to do a re-inspection of your property, in all fairness, they should only be looking at the items that were on your original punch list. It's not fair for them to go through, determine that you have, in fact, corrected all the items on the punch list, and now suddenly add 1, 2, 10 new items and say that you still did not pass. So we are advocating that with your punch list, if you have made every effort to comply, to correct, to change those to ensure compliance, and the inspector comes back, you should get a passing grade if you have done that. Now, if you at any point feel that your QA inspection was unfair, we also advocate in this point number 4 that you should have an opportunity to appeal the decision, to appeal the final score, appeal the final report. And as part of that process, we are advocating that the appeal process should have 2 parts. Either you should be able to come and present evidence of your full compliance, Maybe it's photos, maybe it's even an in-person or a videotaped meeting that you could have with the QA inspectors, but that you can present evidence that in fact you complied with the punch list, you corrected and changed everything. Alternatively, if that does not work, another option would be that you should be able to request that the director or the supervisor of the QA inspector come personally to your hotel and do an inspection and see how you have complied and that truly you are in compliance and you're meeting the brand standards. And then finally, and this is also a very important point, in all fairness, we are advocating that guest surveys, online comments, or other guest rating systems should never ever be the basis for a default, a penalty, or a termination. I mean, while we all want to trust the guest surveys, and we do, we look closely at those, we make sure that we are understanding what the guests are saying. But at the same time, sometimes guests will often complain in order maybe to get free services, get a reduction in their room rate. So as a result, the guest surveys or these comment cards should never be the basis for you to be found in default with a penalty or termination. Now, turning to the questionnaire, as we discussed, the 12 points questionnaire. Again, if you would like to go to your franchisor and ask them specific questions on this particular point to understand what's in your franchise agreement, what their policies are, here's a series of questions that you can use to do that. And just as I won't go through all of them for purposes of time today, but let me just direct you to, for example, the first one. First question, if a franchisee fails a QA inspection and is given a punch list of items to repair, correct, or change, during the subsequent re-inspection, do you seek only to confirm that in fact the franchisee has completed all of the items on the punch list? So find that out from your franchisor. I think it will give you great comfort knowing what to expect for your next QA inspection, especially if there's any concerns or you have any punch list of items that you were given to correct. So with that, I would now like to turn to a few other experts who can offer you some tips on complying with the QA inspections, as well as some stories that they have heard of how this has impacted various hoteliers.
Inspections are announced or inspector turns up, whether it's through a third party or a brand representative. They should be treated like a guest and not as an inspection from the point of view of a guest. We want to make sure our property is good for our guests, clean and well maintained and comfortable.
Quality insurance inspections should be based on an educational time. You should get a punch list of anything that doesn't maintain standards, and you should act and correct those standards.
There needs to be set parameters which could be set out from the onset, that I did not get this supply, I did not get that supply, and therefore it's not part of brand standards. However, this is the order that we're remediating with, and this is what's out there.
It should not be used unfairly against you to take away the brand name on your business. It should not be used unfairly against you because maybe you're more vocal than other franchisees. It should be maintained equally across the brand.
Depending upon which brand you're with and which franchise you're with. But there are some brands that are company owned. The quality inspection should be the same for both. The standards should be the same for both, whether they're corporate owned or they're franchise owned. And why do we get quality inspections? Well, quality inspections happen when we fail below a certain standard. Again, that standard is governed by guest surveys. As long as the guest surveys are verified, qualified stays.
They should be taken, I hate to say with a grain of salt, but we all know that guest surveys or online comments can be very punitive of people wanting and threatening things against an individual franchisee, that if you don't give me this free, I'll give you a bad survey. You should look at them. The brand should look at them, but they should not be part of your final rating system into the quality of your hotel.
One of my other businesses where we had inspections, it was the relationship with the inspector that influenced the actual quality. And sad to say, that is true still to this day. I know properties are favored with the relationship they have with their inspectors. There are many properties out there that should be failed, but there are a lot of properties out there that don't need to be failed. That needs to be addressed as well.
So thank you again. Thank you for joining us on this point number 4 of AAHOA's 12 points of fair franchising. We invite you again to review points number 1, 2, and 3 so that you're up to speed on it as we continue with our mission to go from victory to victory in the battle for fairness in the industry. Thank you.